I want you to imagine walking into a community where there are just no bosses.
None at all.
Right, like there are no rules, no assigned chores, and absolutely no supervision. Now, picture a pile of cash just sitting there in a public space.
Just out in the open.
Yeah, literally out in the open. And anyone can walk up to it and take from it at will, no questions asked. Oh, and one more detail for you. To live in this place, you are only allowed to own exactly 3 outfits.
I mean, it sounds like a thought experiment designed by a sociologist, right? Like,
Oh.
just to see how fast human nature can tear a community apart.
Oh, absolutely.
You'd honestly expect chaos by, like, dinner time on day 2.
Yeah.
But what you were describing is actually a very real, meticulously detailed blueprint for a completely different way of existing.
And you are listening to this and probably thinking, well, that's a recipe for disaster.
Mhm.
But in 2011, a man named Su Feng wrote this fascinating text called The 3-Character Primer for the Second Home.
Right, and that community is now known.
Exactly. So we have this primary source document right in front of us today, and our mission for this deep dive is to really explore this radical blueprint for communal living. It's a system entirely built on just 3 single characters: simple, economical, and firm.
And it is radical.
It really is. We are going to discover how a community even attempts to function when all the traditional societal structures you and I rely on every single day are completely, like, ripped out by the roots.
And I'd argue they're removed with extreme prejudice. I
Yeah.
mean, to really grasp what Sufeng is attempting with this community, you have to look at its complete and utter rejection of traditional bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Because you and I, we live in a world of red tape.
Yeah.
We have managers who manage managers,
Mm-hmm.
endless layers of accountability, and these complex systems just designed to catch human error.
Yeah, fail-safes on top of fail-safes.
Right. But this text proposes the exact opposite. It argues that simplicity isn't just, an aesthetic lifestyle choice, like painting your walls white or clearing off your desk.
Well, a minimalist Instagram aesthetic.
Exactly. It argues that simplicity is the ultimate non-negotiable key to actual order.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with that first character, simple, because before we can even look at how the members of this community feel or what they think about internally, we have to look at the physical boundaries of this second home, or really the profound lack of boundaries.
Yeah, the text builds this entire concept on a very specific philosophical foundation. It pulls from this historical master strategist, Zhu Geliang, who is quoted as saying, "With a simple life, you can retain a clear consciousness of your goal."
Okay, so a clear mind through a simple life.
Right, and it also leans on Gandhi, bringing in his claim that simplicity is the essence of the universe. So the author, Swang, he creates this core equation here, and it's a massive claim to make. He says greater simplicity equals better order, higher efficiency, and larger happiness.
Which, I mean, that completely flies in the face of how modern society operates.
Totally.
We usually think greater complexity equals higher efficiency, right? Like, we build more complex software to do things faster. But the second home enforces this simplicity through absolute strict minimalism.
Very strict.
The text outlines that every member is allotted exactly 1 bedroom. And inside that bedroom, you get 1 bed, a desk, a chair, and a cabinet. You get 3 pairs of shoes and exactly 3 sets of clothes for changing and washing.
And that is it.
That is it. Everything else, from eating your meals in the dining hall to checking the internet in the computer room, is entirely communal.
Because it entirely strips away the individual accumulation of property. When the physical environment is completely uniform across the board, you instantly remove the need to manage that environment.
Oh, that makes sense.
Think about it. You don't need a massive moving truck when someone changes rooms. You don't need to negotiate who gets the bigger closet because, well, there are no bigger closets.
Right.
The simplicity of the physical space eliminates about 90% of the daily friction that usually requires a manager to step in and solve.
I can see how the physical minimalism solves some logistical problems, but the lack of rules is what I read with just pure enthusiastic disbelief.
It is wild.
The text explicitly says there are no rules, regulations, or commandments, no assigned tasks, no required accomplishments, no supervision, literally no checks.
None. You just do what needs doing.
Which is crazy. Everyone decides for themselves what to do, how to do it, and how well to do it. They only have 1 community meeting a week on Fridays, and all other meetings are canceled.
It's a total paradigm shift.
It sounds like, giving every single component in a computer root access and just hoping the hardware somehow coordinates itself to play video. How does a community harvest crops or cook meals or maintain buildings if literally no one is in charge.
What's fascinating here is the text introduces a concept called holographic management.
Holographic management.
Yeah, it's a brilliant turn to describe a seemingly impossible dynamic.
Mhm.
Instead of a top-down hierarchy like a pyramid with a CEO at the top, the management is holographic.
Like an actual hologram.
Exactly like that. If you think about how a hologram works physically, every tiny fragment of the holographic film contains the entire image. If you cut it in half, you don't get half the picture, you get the whole picture, just smaller.
So wait, every individual member contains the entire operating system of the community within their own mind.
Precisely. There's no leadership mechanism because everyone is expected to be the leader of their own specific function.
Wow.
Yeah, there are no accountants, there are no bank tellers. The structure relies on the individual understanding the whole mission so deeply that they don't need a supervisor to tell them a fence needs mending. They just see the broken fence, they know the community needs a fence, and they fix it.
And that brings us to the money, which is, honestly, the wildest part of this holographic management.
Oh yeah, aside from designated purchasing agents who interface with the outside world, no one inside the community asks for an allowance.
You just take it.
Right, the money is literally placed in a public area. If you need pocket money for something, you just walk up and take it. You don't submit an application, you don't report it to a committee.
Hold on, you're telling me there is absolutely zero ledger. Has any group of humans ever actually pulled this off without someone taking advantage? I mean, that requires a level of trust that borders on delusion.
That is the vulnerability of the entire project. But the text doesn't just rely on blind trust. It actively engineers the social dynamics of the community to protect that trust.
How so?
They do it by aggressively outlawing mutual obligation. Members of this community are referred to as Lifechanyuan celestials.
Celestials.
Yeah, and the word celestial implies someone who has ascended past petty earthly squabbles. To maintain that celestial status, the text specifically states they do not celebrate birthdays, they do not observe festivals, they do not give each other gifts or souvenirs of any kind.
See, that sounds incredibly bleak at first glance. No birthdays, no holiday parties, just nothing.
It sounds bleak until you look at the mechanics of why they do it. The text explicitly states this ban on gifts is to ensure members do not form mutual aid relations in terms of profit and interests.
Which, okay, that makes perfect sense when you map it to human behavior.
Right.
Think about it. If I give you a really nice sweater for your birthday, you feel a subconscious debt to me. It's human nature.
Exactly.
So next week, when the community is deciding who gets the better crop of tomatoes from the greenhouse, you might subconsciously defer to me because I gave you that sweater. It creates this subtle hierarchy of debt.
That invisible string of obligation is exactly what Shuafeng is trying to sever. Because the gift economy creates factions. Factions create politics, and politics destroy equality.
Wow.
By banning gifts and personal celebrations, you ensure that no one owes anyone anything. Your choice to work for the community remains entirely voluntary, not subtly coerced by social debt. You're an independent node in this holographic system.
Okay, but this exposes a massive gap in the logic for me.
Let's hear it.
If there is a literal bowl of cash sitting in the open, and there are no rules telling me I can't take it, and nobody is checking a ledger, why wouldn't I just take a handful of cash, go into the nearest town, and buy a luxury watch? Or a fancy new jacket? Like, what actually stops the hoarding?
That exact vulnerability is why the first pillar, simple, cannot survive without the second character in the text, which is economical.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Having established this hyper-minimalist physical environment, we now have to look at the community's relationship with the material goods they do actually consume. The text calls this approach practicality over prestige.
And once again, Shuafeng anchors this in classical philosophy to give it weight. The text quotes Lao Tse, identifying economy as one of the three great treasures of life.
Right.
It also quotes the ancient historian Sima Guang, who operated by a very strict code of ethics.
Yeah.
Sima Guang warned that the others take pride in extravagance, but I regard economy and simplicity as a virtue. Yeah, and his ultimate warning, which the second home takes as gospel, is that economy leads to success, extravagance leads to failure.
So the second home enforces a strict, unbending rule against extravagance. They never buy luxury items. Every single object they possess or acquire operates strictly on the principle of practical use.
Form follows function, essentially.
Exactly. Does it keep you warm? Does it feed you? If yes, it is allowed. If it is just for showing off, it is banned.
Which eliminates a lot of modern consumerism right out of the gate.
Yeah, but it goes deeper than just a shopping ban. The text demands this deep, almost aggressive mindfulness about everyday consumption. There is a specific quote that dictates, "One should think at each meal how difficult it has been to obtain the food, and reflect, at each time of dressing, on the hard work involved in each inch of silk."
It is a mental framework designed to force the individual to constantly acknowledge the invisible labor behind their own existence.
But this isn't just an anti-consumerist lifestyle, like trying to buy fewer clothes to save the environment. It is a hyper-mindful, almost spiritually demanding way to live.
Very demanding.
I look at human psychology and I have to ask, this sounds utterly exhausting.
Oh, for sure.
To sit down to a simple bowl of rice and be required to vividly imagine the grueling, back-breaking labor behind every single grain? Is this text advocating for a life of perpetual guilt or a life of profound gratitude?
That is the essential tension of the text, and it's a brilliant question. But to understand how these celestials actually live it, we have to look at the mechanism of why it matters to them.
Okay.
It's not about suffering or guilt. It's about a total, radical shifting of values. The text notes that if tableware is clean, pottery is actually better than gold. Simple garden vegetables are superior to dainty, expensive food.
Wait, why is pottery better than gold? I mean, gold doesn't tarnish. It's objectively a more durable material.
Because gold has social prestige, and pottery only has functional value.
Ah, I see.
By stripping away the pursuit of gold or dainty food, the community attempts to insulate itself from the traditional failures of human greed. Extravagance, as Sima Guang warned, leads to failure because it creates a moving goalpost of satisfaction.
That makes a lot of sense.
If you need a luxury watch or dainty exotic food to feel happy, you are a slave to the complex supply chains that provide those things. You will always want more.
You are perpetually dissatisfied.
Exactly. But if you can train your brain to find deep, mindful, overwhelming satisfaction in a clean clay bowl and a simple garden vegetable, your happiness is secure.
You basically hack your own desires.
You neutralize the greed that normally destroys utopian communities. The economical mindset isn't a punishment. It acts as an impenetrable shield against the temptations of the outside world.
So let's map this out. The external world of the community has no rules. That's a simple character.
Right.
The material world is stripped of all luxury and status symbols. That's the economical character. But this brings me back to my earlier pushback.
Laziness question.
Yeah. If I can do whatever I want and take whatever cash I want, and I'm living in a bare room where I'm not allowed to buy anything fun, what stops me from just laying in bed 14 hours a day?
Nothing externally stops you.
If I'm perfectly content with my simple bowl of rice, why would I ever go out and pull weeds in the garden? How does this place not instantly collapse into a swamp of laziness?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you've just hit on the exact reason why the whole system would collapse if it only had two characters.
Okay.
Radical freedom, combined with extreme material restraint, absolutely causes a collapse without a massive influx of personal discipline. And that brings us to the third character, which is the internal anchor of the entire system, firm.
Firmness. The text defines firm as meaning solid. It talks about the absolute necessity to consolidate the root in order to build a solid foundation.
Yes.
So if the first two characters strip away the outside world, this third character builds the inside world.
The text breaks this firmness down into three specific, incredibly demanding aspects. First, it requires firm belief, solid cultivation, and profound skills.
Yeah.
You can't just be going through the motions. You have to fundamentally believe in the mission of the second home.
Right.
Second, and this is where the pressure really ramps up whenever you start something, you have to strive for the absolute best. You can never give up halfway. You cannot be perfunctory. And crucially, you must not let others have a negative opinion of your work.
Which is just an intense burden to carry.
And the third aspect locks it all in. You have to be practical, down to earth, and offer absolutely no lip service.
Yeah.
You can't just talk a good game. Your actions must be flawless.
It is an extreme level of personal policing.
Very extreme.
When I was reading this section, I was struck by the incredible irony of it all. It's like walking into a restaurant where there is no manager on duty, there is no menu to tell you what to cook, and there is no cash register to track sales.
Right.
But you, as the chef, are required to demand absolute Michelin star perfection from yourself for every single plate, purely out of your own mind.
That is the perfect analogy. You are replacing the external manager with an incredibly harsh internal manager.
And the text gets so microscopic about this internal manager.
Mhm.
It says you must be honest and sincere in every word, action, and move.
Right down to the smallest detail.
But then it adds this chilling little detail. It says you must be sincere in your, quote, knitting of the brows, smile, and thinking. They are policing your eyebrow movements.
I know, it sounds Orwellian at first.
That contrast is wild to me. The external rules are so loose they barely exist, but the internal expectations dictate how you are allowed to sigh or frown.
Because a sigh or a frown is contagious.
Yeah.
In a society with no external structure, morale is the only structure that exists.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way.
A bad attitude is a literal virus in this ecosystem. The reason there are no accountants or supervisors to make sure you're doing your job is because every single individual is expected to police their own thoughts, their own smiles, and their own work ethic with unyielding firmness. You have to quarantine your own negative thoughts before they infect the community.
You are the manager. You are the accountant of your own soul. The hardware has to be completely self-aware and self-correcting.
Yes, and if even one person lacks that internal firmness, the holographic management starts to fail. The entire structure relies on the profound gamble that if you cultivate your mind to be firm enough, you simply do not need a rule book.
So what does this all mean? We have simple, economical, and firm. A life with no rules, strict minimalism, and an intensely heavy burden of internal discipline. What is the ultimate payoff for someone willing to live this way?
Drifa actually answered that directly at the end of the text by citing the Heart Sutra. He promises a massive psychological and spiritual payoff.
Okay, what is it?
The text claims that as long as a member masters these three characters, simple, economical, and firm, they will be rewarded with a mind that has no concern and worry. And without concern and worry, they will have no fear. They will be far away from terrible dreams and will eventually achieve nirvana.
Nirvana, total spiritual liberation. I mean, that is quite the return on investment for giving up your birthday presents and limiting yourself to 3 pairs of shoes.
It really is.
Now, for you listening to this, you probably aren't going to throw out all your possessions tomorrow, cancel your birthday, and move to a commune. But there is a incredibly potent framework here.
Definitely.
Is there an area in your own life, perhaps your digital life, your sprawling calendar, or your monthly budget, where applying just a little bit of the simple, economical, firm framework could cure some of your own daily information overload or anxiety? Could intentionally choosing less external clutter and demanding more internal firmness actually bring you a little closer to having no concern and worry?
It's a powerful question to ask yourself. And looking at this text, it leaves us with one final, fascinating contradiction to mull over.
Oh, what's that?
Early on, the text confidently states that a simple life requires an indifferent attitude to fame and fortune. But later, under the firm character, it explicitly commands that you should not let others have a negative opinion of what you did.
Oh, wow. I completely missed that tension. You're supposed to not care about fame, but you are forbidden from letting people think poorly of you.
It's subtle but profound. If you are truly indifferent to fame and you are living freely in a society with absolutely no rules, why is the text so deeply, urgently concerned with making sure no one has a negative opinion of your work?
That is a great point.
It raises an incredible question about human nature. Is it possible that in a society that abolishes all formal laws, the ultimate invisible governing force just becomes an intense, terrifying hyper-awareness of your reputation among your peers?
You strip away the managers, you strip away the police, you strip away the rule books, and suddenly the only thing keeping the machine running is the paralyzing fear of letting down the people around you.
Exactly.
It's like we said at the very beginning, you can design a society where the traditional structures are completely removed, but when you look at the X-ray of human nature, that jagged line of how deeply, desperately we care about what others think of us, it's still right there in the picture.
It might just be the only thing holding the bones together.